Welcome back to this Elade Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News channel. With me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akintenewa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office of Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Professor Anthony Killer, Professor of Strategy and Development at the Center for International Advance and Professional Studies, CIAPS. As Nigeria marked our 62nd independence anniversary yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari, in what he called his last address to the nation on such an auspicious occasion, emphasized that his administration has made significant progress in key areas of national life, despite persisting challenges in the economy and struggles with insecurity. He also spoke about the fight against corruption, his government's commitment to lift Nigerians out of poverty, which I describe as work in progress. Arise correspondent Purinam Benjamin put together the following report on Nigeria's independence celebration. Here it is.
Every 1st October, Nigerians gather in their numbers to celebrate the country's independence from Britain. The event is always celebrated with a series of military parades and cultural displays from the diverse ethnic groups, with each showcasing its rich cultural heritage. This military skit left everyone in awe. Earlier, the president reeled out his administration's achievements.
One of the areas where we have made significant progress is in the eradication of deeply entrenched corruption that permeates all facets of our national development. We strengthened the institutions for tackling corruption and also cultivated international support, which aided the repatriation of huge sums of money illegally kept outside the country. The increasing number of prosecutions and convictions with associated refunds of large sums of money is still ongoing.
For some Nigerians, Buhari's achievements are not felt by the people. They point to his inability to rein in criminal elements threatening the nation. Others fault his handling of the economy.
To curb insecurity, economic buoyancy, and for the Nigeria to enjoy their democracy.
In the area of security, in the area of women empowerment, youth empowerment, employment for the youth, and also in the area of diversification of the economy.
I would like to see where those at the higher realms of affairs will listen to our complaints and try to help us implement them to give us a better nation.
Mixed feelings anyway, but most importantly, I'm very happy because it is not everyone that is this lucky to witness the growth of a nation as ours. For us to be here today signifies that we are happy to be part of this project called Nigeria, and there is hope that things will be better.
This core member expresses concern over Nigeria's wobbling education system. She says the youth will do better here than going abroad.
Firstly, our education sector. I really want the government to make things better so that our upcoming children can be proud to school in this country. Because I believe the best place to learn is in your country, because you get to know about your culture, you get to know about your religion, your tribe, and because traveling outside the country is good in a way, but sometimes you get to forget your motherland, where you are coming from.
For this skater, in her glamorous Nigerian color, wants to celebrate no matter the circumstances.
I decided to dress like this. Nigeria is female. Decided to represent our country. Green, white, green. Our color is beautiful. I mean, peace, love, unity. What else? Can't come out in another color today now. Today is our day. You have to come out representing Nigeria full force.
I'm happy today. We are 62. Everything was awesome. The parade, everything, cultural dances. I'm happy. Nigeria, it's a very beautiful country.
At 62, Nigeria is not yet the country many want it to be. The country after independence in 1960 used to be secure, but not anymore. Cost of living remains high. Many citizens do not have access to healthcare and education. Nigerians want a rapid change, especially as they get set to elect new leaders. Despite all these challenges, they believe a new Nigeria is possible. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
We're now being joined by Professor Samuel Aje, a professor of applied linguistics and currently Vice Chancellor at Achievers University, Owo, in Ondo State. Thank you very much, Professor Aje, for joining us on This Day Live, this Sunday talk show. Very quickly, Prof, let's start with this is the second anniversary of Nigeria at 62. The president, President Muhammadu Buhari, addressed the country yesterday in the course of a long speech in which he made promises, talked about the achievements of his administration, and expressed hope, optimism about the future. What do you think of that message? And what do you think, as someone who has seen Nigeria through many seasons, from independence to this moment, of how this country has fared?
Thank you very much. And let me start by congratulating our viewers for this celebration. It's the second independence anniversary celebration. Well, it's worth celebrating, but many things need to be viewed. This independence needs to be seen, this anniversary needs to be seen from many perspectives. I happen to have been privileged to see it in 1960. That was when I was about leaving the primary school for the secondary school. It was a very joyful moment. We had the flag, the Independence Cup. We were fed with jollof rice and chicken. It was glorious. Euphoria was great. Expectation was beyond what anybody could express. And shortly from that date, other things started creeping up. Of course, we had the military intervention, the Civil War, and some of the morals we held so dearly to us then were lost. We forgot everything. And the national anthem there was, "In brotherhood we stand, though tribe and tongue may differ." But today, so many things that should bring us together now tear us apart. And the word that is most disturbing is the level of insecurity in the nation. Alas, where there is no security, there cannot be development. There can't be progress. And where schools, particularly the tertiary education, seem to have been abandoned for 6-7 months running, and the adults and the leaders of tomorrow, the youth of tomorrow, roaming about the streets, of course, without doubt, we know clearly that we are directly breeding insecurity and encouraging chaos. These are the challenges that need to be addressed. Regardless, therefore, that the government might have made, these few points are sufficient to dampen whatever successes the government may seem to record. I think I would like to stop there for the meantime.
Well, but Prof, yesterday the president of Nigeria addressed the nation. And he said when he was made president in 2015, he committed himself to a number of issues to Nigerians. Fighting insecurity, addressing the challenge of corruption, and also making Nigeria a better place for everybody. And he gave himself a pass mark on all three scores. He says he feels our space. He says, I share the pains of Nigerians whatever pains that they are going through, but that as a government, he has done very well. He has taken Nigeria out of 2 recessions, he says, and he has dealt with insurgency in the northeast, he says, and he has dealt with ethnic and religious divisions. The president also says that he has eradicated deeply entrenched corruption to the extent of his entrenchment. Do you agree with the president that the last 8 years have been years of bliss? And what do you expect going forward, considering the fact that we are at a, well, maybe I should not use the word crossroads, but we are at a transition point?
Well, let me congratulate Mr. President. He has put in his best, and that is what it is. But a tree doesn't make a forest. Mr. President is surrounded by advisors, ministers who occupy strategic positions. Can these people boast that they have achieved that much as Mr. President has done? I don't think so. We are still far from it. Far, far, far from it. Mr. President may give instruction, but how do they keep to it? When we talk of eradication of corruption, the states or the stage at which corruption is in this country right now is alarming. When we hear some people who are put in charge of the finances taking a whooping sum of 108 billion, just one person, I feel this is scandalous. We never had this level of corruption, this level of theft. I think we still need to do so much. Mr. President has done his best, but his best may not be enough to meet the expectation of the masses. Nigeria is a country that is growing in leaps and bounds. The population is growing too. The expectation is higher. So maybe what Nigerians need or want may be much more than what the government is offering through this very government. And I feel that any government that is coming on board must be ready to move at the pace of the masses, if not faster than the masses. That's my own belief in that. But I feel that there's still a lot, so much to be done. Now, there's so much insecurity. People can't sleep in their homes and with the 2 eyes closed. Traveling by roads is impossible on many of the roads, most particularly between Abuja and Kaduna. Journey by rail is no longer possible. And even by air, we are not too sure. And how many people can afford to travel by air? That is it. Insecurity to be addressed and put under check. That is one of the things that will please Nigerians as of now.
Okay, Professor Aje, I'm sure nobody will disagree with you that there's still a lot more to be done to move this country forward. But as somebody who has seen Nigeria through the seasons, what are those specific things that you think we need to do to move this country forward?
Well, the economy needs to be revived, brought to function. I remember years back, workers or civil servants constituted a class that we used to refer to as middle class. Now we don't have the middle class anymore. We had a few rich, and everybody is not poor. The poor class, the masses, struggling to feed, struggling to have a meal or 2 meals per day. There are even lots that cannot even feed at all. We need to create that class that can consume, and we need to produce what we consume in this country. We have turned ourselves into a consumer country, and the country has become a sort of dumping ground. Anything goes. They bring in anything because we have no option. We consume, and it has reached a point that the purchasing power of Nigerians keeps dwindling every day. I remember there used to be a time when the naira was higher than the dollar. When I was in the US in 1982, the naira was $1.20, more than the dollar. And yet, They were even ready to accept dollar right in the naira, right in the market, right in the shops. That was when Nigeria was Nigeria. Now you need about 730. It's alarming. How many Nigerians can earn $1 a month in Nigeria today? We can't. The salaries are not proportional to the cost of living. Everybody is living in poverty. And this, if it's not checked, will definitely breed corruption. As many people will be looking for how to cut corners, how to make ends meet. If government is not there, directly or indirectly encouraging corruption, something must be done.
Okay, Prof. I mean, you were Director General of the Nigeria French Village in Badagry. You are now Vice Chancellor of a university. You've been involved in diplomacy. One of the major problems we have in Africa, as Nigeria celebrates its independence anniversary, is the fact that many of our countries in Africa are going back to military rule. We have had the recurrence of military coups, the latest one coming from Burkina Faso, where a captain has removed a lieutenant colonel. Second military intervention in Burkina Faso in 8 months. And then, of course, we have had cases in Niger, in Chad, in where again is that? In Guinea-Bissau. And you find that in these African countries, there seems to be a return of military coups. What do you think is responsible for this? And what is the worst that we should expect from Burkina Faso, where the captain is saying that the lieutenant colonel doesn't know what to do? He took power in January and he's just monkeying around, and that he and his team have a better idea about how to secure Burkina Faso.
Well, thank you. Military insurgency has never brought anything good to Africa. We had so much of these coups left, right, and center in Africa in the 60s up to the 70s. And we seem to be going back to that era. Very unfortunate indeed. I am of the opinion that the worst civilian government is better than the best military government. But how do we explain the situation of Burkina Faso? Burkina Faso got its independence in 1960, just the same time like Nigeria. But they have had 8 military coups. 8. And the last 2 within the last 8 months. 8 months ago we had one, and just 3 days ago another one. But one thing that one can notice with most leaders in Africa, even if we digress a little bit from the military ones, but some civilians are also guilty of this. Many leaders in Africa aspire to get to that position of leadership. They get there and they don't know what to do with leadership. To be a leader is not an easy thing. I know. And I want to say boldly that a leader must have something over and above those he's leading, over and above the people. You cannot get there and start thinking of what to do. We had a series of that. We had presidents that got to power for 6-7 months. We are still thinking of what to do, even to appoint their ministers. The same thing is happening there. There's so much insurgency in that country. So many people have been displaced. More than 1 million people have been displaced, and they have attacks right from the north. And this is a country that has borders with more than 6 or 7 countries. So their problems are many. They share so many things with Nigeria. They have about 60 official languages, indigenous languages, all recognized by government. But they need to find a way to harness the diversity and bring something good out of it. And I feel some of the things happening in Burkina Faso should teach us a lesson too, that we must key into those points that seem to throw us apart, to tear us apart. We must invest in this and use this as a rallying point to bring that unity and make the unity, make it come to pass. We must, if we are to lead, we should lead going by the expectations of the people, of the masses. There is what we call collective aspiration. The desires of the people must not be jettisoned once you get to power. But many African leaders, once they get there, they start thinking of how to tinker, how to adjust, amend the constitution so as to enshrine themselves in power and become president for life. That's unfortunately what is happening. And the youth of these days, the youth of Africa, are becoming impatient that they may not want to see this happen for too long. It is sad that leadership is just there. Well, on paper. The one thing one can always say again is that there's no coup that ever happened in Africa without the involvement of a foreign country.
Well, good point, Professor Aje. When Lieutenant Colonel Damiba took over in January in Burkina Faso, his excuse was that, oh, these Islamist insurgents, you know, the problem. And now, when you have Traore, Captain Traore taking over, Captain Traore say, oh, Damiba was not able to solve the problem. And then the people themselves are protesting. The people are even attacking the French, the embassy. So is this about the French? Is this about the outsider? Or about the people themselves not being able to manage their own process?
Well, it is, I would rather say that every group is there to defend their own interests. The French will only defend their interests at any given time. And whoever is in office in some of these countries are there to defend their own personal interests. And those who suffer are the masses, the working class, the masses, abandoned. And of course, you have the insurgents coming from the north, attacking them, rendering them homeless. Even some of them can no longer go to their farms. And there's poverty in the land. And of course, they will just want a change for a change, without knowing what type of change is coming, can also be a danger to everybody.
Okay, Prof. Well, I would like to thank you very much. At this point, we would like to focus a little bit more on Nigeria at 62. I mean, you have been part of the country. I also have, persons in the studio here who have seen Nigeria through the years. I don't want to call your generation the generation of the dinosaurs, because I see that you people are also, you are very modern. You are learning to adapt to the times. But thank you very much, Professor Samuel Aje, for joining us on This Is Live, the Sunday talk show.